Hey, this is David Morelli from the Enwaken radio show. This was probably the most compelling show to date. It was interviewing a convicted murderer who's now a doctor. On the Enwaken radio show, you're going to hear his story. Here are some of the highlights from this show.
Yeah, so then I found myself in maximum security, and I'll tell you what, when I found myself in maximum security, that's when I realized I was not the baddest man on the planet.
Wow.
You know, prior to that, I had developed this identity for myself as a tough guy, and I had sort of maintained that identity in terms of the regional prison I was in, where, you know, I got into fights and I managed to hold my own in that. But when I got to Maxi, which in this particular prison in New Zealand, you only go there if you get kicked out of other prisons in New Zealand.
Wow.
So it is literally, you were talking about the all-star team before, this is the all-star
Yeah, this is like...
team.
Gotcha.
From every generation.
Wow.
My goodness. So I want to hear, like, rehabilitation. I want to hear, like, how to get out of the other side of this.
When actually,
I want to
so
hear the
leading up to that,
moment,
when's that turning point when you go, I can't do this anymore, you know, because now you're on the other side as a PhD.
Yeah, you're with the real crazies in jail. Now you're on the other side. Yeah, I want to hear.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, like, for me, a really big turning point was, you know, when I started to, I after being in Maxi for a while, I thought, you know, I will study a little bit. I'll learn a little bit about human psychology just because, you know, you're in a situation where you really want to understand what makes people tick.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And I thought that would be useful. And, you know, I had my father enroll me in a couple of psych papers from a university in New Zealand which does extramural or distance study. And trust me, I had no intention of doing a degree or anything. That seemed way outside the realms of possibility. You know, I was a high school dropout. I've been held back a year in school when I was younger. You know, it wasn't something that resonated. But this was something which I thought was very practical in terms of learning about. And
so that you don't get your butt kicked and murdered in jail. You know, so you don't make eye contact at the wrong time. Exactly. Very practical. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, I did these couple of papers, and I'll tell you what, I remember writing one of the assignments when I was in solitary confinement for punishment, and I didn't even know what a paragraph was or what a sentence was, and I wrote the whole thing in capital letters, just in a big block, because I thought capital letters looked neater. You know, so this is sort of my level of ignorance in terms of how this stuff worked. But, you know, I was fortunate that I had really good feedback from the university in terms of how to improve and you know, what to do. And I actually ended up passing those papers, despite being in a punishment block at the time. I ended up passing them.
Cool.
And, you know, I thought, oh, my God, this is something I can actually do.
Yeah,
and I thought, imagine how amazing it would be if I could get out of here with a degree.
Yeah.
And by this stage, I was about 3 years into my sentence, and I had all of these examples around me of people who'd served well over a decade in prison and had nothing to show for it. And I thought, imagine if I could get out of here with a degree. It would be like it wasn't all for nothing. And it was at that point I came across Robert Frost's poem as well, you know, The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And that really resonated with me at the time. And I thought to myself, you know, look, I can do this, but if I really want to do this, I need to stop doing drugs. Like, I was smoking weed on an hour-by-hour basis at this point.
Yeah,
and
can't be doing
you
that.
know, you just can't be doing that and studying. So I had to make this choice. Am I going to go for immediate gratification and to make my moment-by-moment experience more pleasurable by being stoned, or am I going to sacrifice that for the long-term benefit of getting something really meaningful?
So pause right there. Hang on one second. Yeah. Everybody who you're looking at your own life, right? How many things do you do for the moment-by-moment gratification versus realizing that there's something else that you're moving towards? And if you don't know what that is, your job is to find out what it is that you're wanting to move towards, what it is that your purpose is, where it is that you're going, what inspires you, whatever goal you want to accomplish, because that organizes your life. And without that, it's just sort of a here, there, and everywhere, the little ebb and flow with, what is the moment, you know, what feels good in the moment versus what's going to bring you greatest fulfillment. So this show was jam-packed, as you can tell, with all kinds of amazing stories and lessons about where it is that you can go in your life, having been inspired by Paul's story. So to get the whole show, go to Enwaken on iTunes.com. And to get the integration meditation for this show, go to enwaken.com/radio and put your name and email in for the integration meditations. And I'll see you on the next show.